everyone, thank you for joining me. Welcome to day 3 of my 12 days of Crafty Christmas 2025. I'm continuing to work with the Keeping Traditions Scrapbooking Workshop kit. I'm also using the Keeping Traditions and Gift of Joy stamp set. In day 1 I did run through all of the products that I would be using for days 1 through 6. So today I will be using 1 sheet of basic white cardstock and then some papers and bits and pieces from the Scrapbooking Workshop kit. So to start, we're going to want our sheet of basic white cardstock. I'll move those patterned paper sheets out of the way, and I'm going to cut on the short side at 10.5 centimetres. So I'm cutting my cardstock in half. Then I'll put that other piece to one side for a moment, and then this piece I'm going to rotate and I'm going to score at 14.85 and 7.45. Move my cutting blade out of the way, so I'm going to score at 14.85 and at 7.45, like so. And then I'm going to bring back in that strip of cardstock that was left from before, and I'm going to cut that down to be 5 centimetres wide. So it will be 5 centimetres by the length of an A4 sheet. This bit's spare, and then this piece I'm going to rotate and I'm going to score at 14.85 and 7.45. Like so. Then while we've got our trimmer, let's cut our patterned paper. So I've picked out 3 different designs. So I'm going to be using this piece, which is left over from the sheet that we used to create the box on day 2, and then this piece which is left from creating the card that we created for day 1, and then I've also brought in this piece as well, and this is the side that I'm going to be using today. So the first thing that I'm going to do is my 10 by 14.35 layer. So I'm going to cut a strip at 10 centimetres. And then I'm going to rotate and cut at 14.35. So that's our first panel. Then I'm going to want 2 pieces that measure 10 centimetres by 7 centimetres. Now, if your paper is directional, if you're creating these projects with some different papers, you're going to want for your paper to run, so when you've cut it, it's portrait, so the narrow side is left to right and the long side is top to bottom. So I'm not using directional paper today, although I do want my stripes to be the right way round. So just thinking which way round I would like my patterned pieces. So I'm going to cut, so you can either do the two pieces the same, or you could do them differently. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have my back panel, which is the one that we've just cut, and the very front panel to be the same. So I'm going to cut a piece. Oh, I wonder if I can get away with that. It's a bit of a bigger border. I'm going to go for it, but if you're cutting, I would cut 10 centimetres by 7 centimetres, and then I'm going to cut from this Secret C as well, a piece that is 10 centimetres by 7 centimetres. So let's cut the 7 and then rotate that and cut at So it's near enough for my liking. So those are the pieces that are going to go on here, like that. And then I need some more designer series paper. So I'm going to want one piece that measures 14.35 by 5, and then two pieces that measure 7 centimetres by 5 centimetres. So I'm going to take my Secret C piece and I'm going to cut at 5 centimetres, and then I'm going to rotate and cut at 14.35. So that is the piece that I want. And then I'm going to want a piece that is 7 centimetres by 5 centimetres. And this time the long side is left to right and the short side is top to bottom. And then finally, what's the reverse of that? Actually, I might not use that. I might keep that whole and use the reverse of this paper instead. So I'm going to cut a 5 centimetre strip, and then I'm going to rotate and cut at 7 centimetres. There we go. So let's move my scraps out of the way. I can move my trimmer out of the way now. So let me just run through what we've got. So we've got a half a sheet of A4 that is scored at 14.85 and 7.45. I've got a piece of basic white that measures the length of an A4 sheet, scored at 14.85 and at 7.45. I've got a piece of designer series paper that is 10 centimetres by 14.35 centimetres. I've got two pieces that measure 10 centimetres by 7 centimetres. I've got one piece that measures 14.35 by 5 centimetres. And then I've got two pieces that measure 7 centimetres by 5 centimetres. Okay, now we can stick some of our layers together. So I'm going to start with my card base. So aiming for a nice even border all the way around. And then that piece. I really like this card design because once you've kind of cut your pieces, it comes together really quickly, and you've got nice, you're not having to do kind of lots and lots of different sized pieces. You've got two single pieces and then two pairs, so it's not too complicated. And then that should be 5.5, and I think that's 5. I think I said 5, didn't I? Yes. My strip should be 5.5 centimetres. There we go, that looks better. So okay, nice even border. It's also a really nice project for using up scraps, because you could do a different paper on every panel if you wanted to. You don't have to use the same. But if you've got the kind of colours running across the different papers, which is something that Stampin' Up do really well, because all of our products coordinate. So our patterned paper, our cardstock, our two-tone cardstock, our inks, our blends, our Stampin' Right markers. So as long as your papers coordinate with each other, you can just kind of go through your scraps and go, oh yeah, that bit will do for that size piece, and that bit will do for that size piece. And so the way the card is going to work is we're going to stick it together like that. So it's going to stand like that. And you can stick your strip wherever you like. You could go central if you wanted to, you could go low down if you wanted to, you could go at the top, somewhere in between, wherever you reckon. But when we stick it down, it's really important that we're only adding adhesive to the end narrow panel and up to halfway on the long panel. So you're going in from the end, so the end section, and then in from this end just up to halfway. You don't want to go beyond halfway. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit short of halfway, but you don't want to go over, because if you go over then you're going to start sticking it to this section and then your card's not going to work properly. So I'm going to go for about there, so I've got a little bit of the pattern paper showing underneath my strip. Aiming for nice and straight, and now my card does exactly what it's supposed to do. So now is the fun bit where we get to decorate. Not that the creating the card isn't fun, but the best bit is definitely the decorating. So I have punched out a 2 3/8 circle. I've popped out some of the pop outs from the workshop kit. So I've got this kind of sprig, I've got some of these red flowers, some of these white flowers, and just off to the side here I've got the sticker sheet as well. So I'm going to use the kind of circle, I think, as my kind of focal point. So I think I'm going to pop my circle kind of on this half, like that, and then I'm going to build up around it with some of the kind of florals, and then thinking about putting my sentiment on here as well, maybe with one of the stickers. But something that I am going to do is I'm going to grab my snips and I'm just going to trim round some of that white space, because I think there's just a little bit too much white space. So I'm not going to cut all the way into all the way up to the colour. I'm just going to narrow that border. You don't have to do this, it's personal preference. Sometimes I really like having the white space, sometimes I want less white space, so I'm just going to carefully trim around my flowers. Now, if the idea of fussy cutting is terrifying, it's one of those things that I tend to find you either love it or you hate it, but there are some tips that make life a lot easier. And I used to hate fussy cutting, and then I was given some tips by some of my crafty friends that have made fussy cutting so much easier, and has also made me better at it. So the things that I would say to somebody who's kind of new to fussy cutting, or perhaps not super confident about fussy cutting, there are kind of two main tips that I would give to somebody, and that is move your paper, not your scissors. So with your scissors, you're just doing this motion. You're not kind of turning with your scissors. And also don't close your scissors. So although I'm kind of, obviously you have to close them to an extent to make them cut, what I'm not doing is that. If you do that and you're using the kind of point end of your scissors, you'll end up with a really uneven cut line. So you want to be kind of using right up where the the blades kind of form the V. You want to be right in that V when you're doing it. And I'm turning the paper, not my scissors, and you'll find that it goes much better. One of the many things that I love about Stampin' Up is so many of our stamp sets have coordinating dies. So the kind of main image can be die cut, so you don't have to do the fussy cutting, or it might come with a coordinating punch. But there are some sets that are kind of standalone and that don't have dies. But I find fussy cutting very therapeutic. I didn't used to. It's definitely something that I've grown to love. And like I say, my lovely crafty friends that shared the tips about not using the point, not fully closing your scissors, and moving the paper, not the scissors, have made a world of difference, especially when you've got kind of more fiddly shapes. I mean, these are nice and easy, kind of just follow the shape of the flower, but when you've got something that's a bit more wiggly or a little bit more uneven, by moving the paper, I feel like you have so much better control. I probably should have done this ahead of time, but never mind. It won't take me long to get to the end. Another thing I would say as well, when you're kind of starting out, don't cut too close. The closer you go, the harder it is to kind of maintain that same level of closeness all the way through whatever it is that you're cutting out. So you want to have a bit of white space, because if you've got a bit of white space, it's more forgiving. Whereas if you're kind of specifically cutting all the way up to the stamped image or the die cut piece or whatever, the pop outs, if you're cutting too close, or if you're cutting very close, you don't have there isn't a lot of wiggle room. You want to be kind of giving a little bit of a border so that it doesn't matter if it's a little bit uneven, it'll be less obvious. Also, sometimes it's okay to just chop a bit off. There. Okay. I'm not going to worry about the white space with the white flowers. I think that's fine, but just wanted a bit less around my red flowers and my pine needles. Okay, so I think I'm just thinking about what sentiment I'd like to use. I might use Merry and Bright, I think. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip it out because I want to pop my sentiment up on dimensionals. So I'm just going to roughly cut it out on the sheet like that. And then I'm going to kind of fold back and I'm going to cut just the backing sort of just inside that outline, because then I can leave the backing on. The other way that you could do it, if you've got the embossing tool with your like little pouch that's got your powder in, you could take the backing off the sticker and then just dab that on the back and it'll take away the sticky. So Merry and Bright is going to be my sentiment, and I'm going to pop that on some dimensionals, but I'm not going to take the backs off just yet because I want to play around with my placement a little bit, and if I take the backs off it'll stick down and then it'll have been decided before I'm ready to decide. So I think I'm going to go for in front of my green circle. So I'm just going to kind of pop those there, and then I think I'm going to put my sentiment off to the side. I'm going to put the bigger flower in the front. I quite like the 3. And then maybe we'll just dot some of a couple of white flowers. Might not need the white flowers actually. Let's do that, and then I might do a gold bow. Okay. So my sentiment is going to go on dimensionals. My pine leaves I'm going to stick down flat. I'm just going to use a bit of seal. About like that. Then my 2 smaller flowers I'm also going to stick down flat, and then I'm going to pop up my larger flower in the front. So I'm going to stick the 1 flower down flat and pop that there. Then I'm going to pop my flower that's on a dimensional like that, and then I'm going to pop my other one down flat. But I wanted to make sure that I'd got the right kind of spacing. So that one I'm just going to tuck in underneath. So you're not going to see tons of it, but just a little bit. And then my sentiments. So I'm going to pop some adhesive on the back of my circle. I'm just going to be careful, make sure I've got it the right way around so that I'm not getting that adhesive on the panel that's behind. So let's just position that, and then I can pop my sentiment on, merry and bright, and I'm happy for that to hang over just a tiny bit. It will still fit in my envelope. There we go. And then I think we need a bit of sparkle, I think, and I might just go just with some of the pearls. So just kind of popping them wherever I feel like it. This is the thing that I feel like I'm not the best at, is kind of deciding where to put embellishments. Like, does that look a bit weird? I don't know. I'm not very good at it. I'm not happy with that one. Oh, but now I've scratched the surface. Maybe we'll put a small one there instead. To just cover up that bit. Yeah, I think it's better with the small one. And then you could add something extra on those squares if you wanted to. I think because of the way it sits, I think it looks nice just like that. But you could decorate so that you can see it from all angles, or you could stand it up so that it's a little bit more kind of opened out so that you could see what you'd put on this side too. But I think I'm going to leave it there for today. So that is our project for today. So yesterday we made this lovely box to hold our cards, and then on day 1 we made this card. Whoop. What am I doing that way? That sits like that. There's the lid. So that's our projects from day 1, 2 and 3. So I do hope that if you haven't already, that you will go back and watch the videos from day 1 and day 2. And I really hope that you will join me again tomorrow for day number 4. I have another card for you tomorrow, again using the scrapbooking workshop kit. And then the cards that we've made so far will fit into the box that we made yesterday. And then I'll thread the ribbon back through, and then it can tie, and it makes for a lovely little gift, or just as a very nice way for you to store the products that you've made before sending them on to their new homes. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, the link to my website, the link to shop with me, and also the link to join my team are down in the description box below. Thank you, take care, bye.